Here is the debatable one that I want to bring up. This may go a little over time. So, shout out to everybody who is listening and still watching, right? If you are listening, I would love for you to go back on YouTube for this particular part, right? Because we're going to relive a very funny, sad, confusing point of 2020.
Right.
Okay. Some may not understand why this even happened. Was this a right move? What is going on in life? Is this relevant in our lives? And for those who are like, Nikki, what are you talking about? When Nate Robinson got knocked out.
Oh man.
Let's look
Dang.
at it. Let's look at it.
What's happening with Nate Robinson? But Snoop Dogg is singing the hymns. He's trying to get
Night, Irene.
Mamma mia, the problem child.
So look. For those who are just listening on the audio experience, appreciate y'all. What you just heard was the commentary of, was it, who was it? Jake Paul? Which one? It was Logan Paul? Whatever. I think it was Jake Paul.
Jake.
I don't know.
That
One of
was
those
Jake.
one of those people. The YouTuber guy, because I'm not a fan of the person, right? But when Jake Paul knocked out Nate Robinson on the Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. card, that was, I want to say, an interesting way to end 2020.
Right.
Knocked down on your face when you were I believe, a 3-time slam dunk champ in the NBA, multiple shows on the internet, highly respectable sneakerhead. I don't know. How I feel.
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay. I don't know how I feel about an athlete who is established facing a YouTuber for whatever reason. Now, granted, the bag was there, the exposure was there, the connections could have possibly be there, right? Now, the debatable part, if was this a win or a loss in 2020 for Nate Robinson? Now, for Jake, this was a start of, and Triller. Shout out to Triller. Hold on, because that platform has been doing amazing things. And I think, I'm not sure if they are going to do the Floyd and the other brother.
Logan.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to do it. But Triller is amazing for throwing that one. But at the end of the day, and shout out to Snoop for the commentary. I think that was the best commentary in a boxing match. Best. Shout out to you, Snoop. But my question is, was this a win or a loss for Nate Robinson? React.
You want to take this first? Can you? I'm actually really curious to see how you position this, because I'm still a little, I'm still a little lost in the sauce of like, why, Nate? Why you played for the Knicks, bro? Like, you're a hometown.
That
in a way.
doesn't. No, wait, first off.
Ah. I mean,
Saying that you played for the Knicks is not really an accomplishment anymore.
I just want to be a diehard. I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be a
Listen,
diehard,
I am, but it's not an accomplishment anymore. Second, and he wore the Knicks colors. I should have known
that was hilarious.
how that was going to happen, right? So, okay. So why I made this into a debatable thing, right, is because what was Nate doing before this? Who was talking about Nate before this situation? Let's try to take the knockout out. Let's try, right? The fact that he was on a card that sold millions of pay-per-views. His name was in the same category as Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. Two legends. Nate, Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. Same card, same place, same card, all that great stuff. For that standpoint, I could say it was a win, right? Because I don't think on a regular smegular day we would be talking about Nate Robinson from everybody knowing who Nate was. Now everybody is like, who is he? Why did he do? His following went up clearly. Everybody on the internet made him a meme. Sometimes, regardless if it's good or bad, if they're talking about you, they're talking about you. And we weren't talking about Nate at all. So, from that standpoint, it was a win on my end, right? Now, what he does after, and we've had this conversation, what he does after will truly put a stamp if this was a win or not, right? Because if he goes and does a rematch, I think that's stupid. Like if he goes back into the boxing ring and there was nothing of boxing that whatchamacallit, that Nate did. I don't know if he trained. I don't know who he trained with. That was horrible. You could tell that he's like a major street fighter where Jake really does this boxing life, right? So from that standpoint, I hope he makes the proper moves that will negate him getting knocked out. Because if we think about how, if we stay in the topic of boxing, and follow me, people, if you're not a boxing fan, the last time I saw somebody get knocked out like that was Pacquiao. Pacquiao got knocked out. But though some would mention that, they will not mention it as a super, like the number one thing they'll mention about Pacquiao, they'll mention about all his wins. They'll mention about the fight with Floyd. They'll mention about all these other things, him being, I don't know, president or governor, a politician in the Philippines, right? They'll mention all those good things because Pacquiao did a lot of good instead of staying on that knocked out situation. So Nate has a lot of good before. Now he has to do a lot of good after for it to stamp if this was a true win for Nate as a brand, right? So that part from a future standpoint is still up in the air. But before the knockout, I think this was a really good look for his brand because it keeps him relevant. Now, would we do it? No, not doing it. Now, and it doesn't go from a standpoint of would you or would you not, values. That's a different thing. Everybody has different values. But what is the goal of being in the ring? Was the goal to be relevant? Was the goal to make a bag? Was the goal to be in front of people that you wouldn't be in front of on a normal basis that could bring up different brand partnerships and opportunities? That's all the things you have to look into. And not only from an entertainment standpoint is how I want to look at Nate Robinson for the end of 2020. But that's just me. I would love your take real quick.
Yeah. I mean, from one side of it, and I don't know what his follow-up was. So I don't know what he did afterward.
I don't know either. I know he did Complex Land and talked about video games in the music industry. I don't know.
So he didn't really mention, kind of like sweeping it under the rug.
I don't think they mentioned that. I'm not really sure.
Got you. Yeah. So I would say, let me give the good first, right? I like to be more of an optimistic side as well.
Let's go.
Yeah. So I think the first side that's really cool is that he went over. He attacked a personal goal.
Yes.
Right. He wanted to be one of the greatest athletes or one of the more versatile athletes that played basketball and did this and did that, and also stepped into the ring to explore boxing.
Yes.
So from one side of it, I'm sure there were fears that were associated to that, discomfort, concern, worry, a lot of things that from day to day hold people back from doing what they want to do. So result aside, meaning the outcome aside of what happened during the fight, the fact that he muscled up the courage to actually step in the ring, shout out to you for doing that, Nate. I think that's phenomenal. That's awesome. There's a lot of us that can benefit from that same outlook. So again, I think that is amazing. The flip side of it, though, I think now from a business and branding standpoint, if the messaging from a follow-up standpoint was not very specific, then, and I know in the beginning he was, trying to make light of the situation and he was laughing, about what happened as well, at least a little bit to kind of, not get too roasted. Because I know typically when people try and hide at a real laughable situation, that's when it gets real bad. But there wasn't a follow-up strategy in place. You look at some of the verses and why the verses are so successful.
Right.
Well, you had multiple artists who started coming on there, dropping albums and mixtapes right after they finished. And they positioned it perfect. It's like, yo, we go Thursday, so that way when we're finished by midnight, I have an album going live. I've listened to the Jeezy. I've been listening to all of Jeezy stuff since that verses with Gucci Mane, to be honest with you. Because I'm like, yo, there was so much great music that I forgot he put out. And then his new album has been great.
Right.
So you talk about a follow-up strategy, leveraging an opportunity for people who typically won't know about you or talk about you. There's something in place. Crazy enough, Jake Paul did it. Mm-hmm. Jake Paul came out with like a diss verse right after, and again, not the most liked, but this is something you always preach, Nicky, and shout out to you again for this one, because you always say there are people out there who are not as talented as you, who are beating you because they keep showing up.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, although my man is not the most liked, and there have been some controversial things that have happened early in his YouTube stage, he's still doing it right. Is he doing it, again, to the way that we like it? Not really. But you know what? He came out with a diss, like he's doing it, then his brother gets a chance to fight one of the greatest,
right.
Floyd. Right? So it's just like, I would have liked to see a follow-up kind of strategy in place from Nate that could help him to leverage that. Because it's, you know what, you're right. When you're not getting talked about, at the end of the day, good publicity is just as good as bad publicity, because you had no one saying your name anyway. So